Well, we're back, and we have an interesting roundtable discussion for you today. Here in the studio with me is Michael Johnson. He's with the Utah Hotel and Lodging Association. They represent about 200 hotels in Utah. And on the phone from Washington, D.C. is Joe Rubin. Joe is with the online travel industry. He actually represents the Interactive Travel Services Association, which is about 9 major online booking companies. Thank you, Joe, for joining us, and thank you, Michael, for being here.
My pleasure.
My little earpiece keeps popping out, so I'll just occasionally put it back in. This is how I hear you, Joe. Michael, let's start with you. You saw some of the issues there that the state and the counties are facing. There appears to be some discrepancy of where taxes are collected and if the full amount is going to the state and the counties, the full amount that's owed. How does the Utah Lodging and Hotel Association see this issue? What would you like to see?
Well, I think from the perspective of the Utah Hotel and Lodging Association, it's important for consumers to know exactly what they're getting and know exactly what they're paying for when they get it. And in this case, we feel like it's important for a consumer who books a hotel room, whether they book it directly at the front desk, whether they book it through a hotel chain website, or whether they book it through an online travel company, they should know what they're paying, and they should know what they're paying in taxes. It's our feeling that the taxes, therefore, should be the same across all of those channels, that a consumer who buys a $100 room, whether it's in person, whether it's over the phone, whether it's online, the tax should be the same for that consumer. And that same amount of tax should be remitted to the county and the state and those jurisdictions that need those revenues to take care of the citizens of Utah, the citizens of the state.
But right now, the state and the county isn't getting the same amount of tax from the online companies as they would if that room was booked in person at a hotel?
Yeah, currently if a room is booked $100 directly through the hotel, and we'll for ease of use here, we'll say it's a 10% tax rate. 10% is collected, so the consumer pays $110. They then take that, the hotel takes that $10 and gives it to the government. And that's a very easy transaction. The same thing happens if you book through a hotel chain website like a Marriott.com or a Hyatt.com. Again, you book it, you pay $100 for the room, $10 for the tax. The hotel takes that $10 of tax and gives it to the government. When you book through an online travel company, what happens is you pay the $100, you're charged an additional $10, which they call taxes and fees. They take that $100, they give a portion of it to the hotel, they give a portion of the tax to the hotel, and then they keep the rest as fees. And in most cases, for ease of use, we'll say it's a 20% fee. They'll give $80 to the hotel. They'll keep $20 for themselves. Then of that $10 that you paid over the price of the room, they'll take $8 of that and they'll give it to the hotel to give it to the government as taxes. And the hotel gives that $8 as taxes. But that other $2, they're gonna keep that themselves, and they'll call that a fee or they'll call that a service
So the
charge.
local governments are coming up $2 short.
But they're coming up $2 short in that transaction versus the exact same transaction through another channel. And so our thought is that $2, that's where the whole rub is, that $2 there. We feel like that $2 should be treated the same, whether it's through an online channel, a telephone channel, an in-person channel, whatever channel a consumer is purchasing, they ought to be treating that $2 the same, and it ought to be getting to the government in the end.
Joe, you represent some of the major online travel booking agencies such as Travelocity, Expedia, Priceline, on and on. Is this how it works? Michael brings up a couple of issues here. One, that the consumer should know exactly how much the tax is and how much the service fee is. And is it true that the online booking companies are only paying the tax on the price they pay for the hotel room?
Well, thanks, Terry. Let me start, I guess, by a couple things. First, let me highlight the role of the online travel companies. And that is I think most consumers are familiar with the role we play, but just for those viewers that may not, we help consumers research travel destinations, compare airfares, compare hotel rates, and then book their travel. And not only that, we also facilitate their ability to book travel to local tourist destinations, ski resorts, museums, that sort of thing. All that's available on our company's websites. And in addition, we also work with our hotel partners, and I want to emphasize that they are indeed our partners, to help facilitate their occupancy rates. And so hotels generally across the country have about a 60% occupancy rate. And so one of the roles that the online travel companies play is to help facilitate raising that occupancy rate.
What have you raised it to, do you think?
We don't know. We don't have specific numbers. The American Hotel and Lodging Association recently released a study that said nationally we increase occupancy rates by about 1%. So I don't know how that applies to Utah, but we think those numbers are probably fairly conservative. We think it's more significant than that, but at least 1%. I mean, we'll at least stipulate that it's at least 1%.
Well, does the consumer know how much when he books that hotel online, that hotel room, how much that he or she is actually paying in taxes? And does that full tax amount go to the state and the counties?
Well, he knows exactly how much he's paying. I mean, he pays what he pays. And, in some cases, if we're facilitating a package, with airfare and a rental car and a hotel all at once, we don't specifically break out each of those costs across the table.
So then it gets rather complicated with the total amount he's paid.
Right, because then everything's sort of mixed together. And second, most hotels stipulate in their contracts that they do not want us to reveal the exact amount that the consumer is paying for the hotel. So, for example, if a hotel, in Michael's example, were to make a room available to a consumer who purchased online for $80, the hotel wouldn't want to disclose that, because then if you go to the hotel site and they say it's $100, you're going to say, okay, what's the difference?
Mm-hmm.
Why is one more than the other? We're trying to give them as much good advice as we can, and trying to facilitate and trying to in effect advertise the availability of rooms in Utah and enable them to compare rooms, and then also enable them to book ancillary products.
We're going to have to go to a break here in just a second, Joe, and then we can come back and finish with this. But it sounds like Michael Joe is saying it's a symbiotic relationship. You both benefit.
Well, certainly the online travel companies serve an important role as partners of the industry. In Utah, they represent close to 6.5% of all hotel stays. So they're an important partner, but I think there's some ways that it works that could be adjusted a little bit.
Well, let's see if we can figure that out.
Right.
We'll take a break and we'll be right back with possibly some answers.
How would you spend an extra day in Utah Valley? Stay one more day. Visit utahvalley.com to make reservations. Utah Valley. Bring everyone together.
The State of Utah School and Institutional Trust Lands Administration. SITLA manages 3.5 million acres of Utah lands with the express purpose of furthering the education of Utah students while promoting local industry, oil and gas, even residential development, all at the same time. Through the careful use of trust lands, we distributed more than $22 million to Utah schools last year. The State of Utah School and Institutional Trust Lands Administration, building the state's permanent school fund.
What brings you to St. George?
Business meeting.
Staying long?
Just here for the day. Quick in and out.
Hey, I just landed. Can we meet in a half an hour?
Not too bad. Why so fast?
Stay any longer? We'll run out of things to do. On second thought.
Buddy, something's come up. I'm gonna need another hour. Can we push the meeting till noon? I am definitely gonna need to reschedule.
meeting go?
I should have booked a weekend.